Imagine a warplane that never fires a missile, carries no bombs, and moves slower than a passenger jet, yet it is the single most important aircraft on a multi-billion-dollar aircraft carrier. Without it, the world's most advanced fighters are blind, and the entire fleet is a sitting duck. This is the E-2 Hawkeye, known to the Navy as the quarterback of the fleet. It was designed as a flying radar station, but it ended up becoming the digital brain of every American naval battle since the Vietnam War. Today, we're going inside the dome of the most sophisticated early warning aircraft ever made to see why the E-2 is the gold standard for global air superiority, and why, even 60 years later, it is the one weapon that ensures the U.S. Navy always sees the enemy long before the enemy even knows they are being watched. The origin of the E-2 is a story of absolute naval necessity. In the late 1950s, the Navy realized that surface-based radar was too limited by the curvature of the Earth. They needed a way to look over the horizon to spot incoming Soviet bombers. Grumman took this challenge and built the E-2, a rugged, twin-turboprop plane with a massive 24-foot rotating dome on its back. It was a radical design that many critics said would be too unstable for carrier landings, but it proved to be a masterpiece of carrier-capable engineering. Engineering the Hawkeye required a miracle of weight management and aerodynamics. To make the plane fit on a crowded carrier deck, designers created a unique folding wing system that looks like a bird tucking its feathers. The massive rotodome on top isn't just a radar, it's an aerodynamic surface that actually provides lift during flight. This was the first plane designed from the ground up for airborne early warning, turning a heavy, vibrating turboprop into a stable platform for the world's most sensitive electronics. The cockpit and the combat center of the Hawkeye are two completely different worlds. Up front, two pilots handle the grueling task of carrier takeoffs and landings, but in the back, three mission system operators sit in a dark, windowless tube filled with glowing screens. This is where the magic happens. These operators manage hundreds of targets simultaneously, acting as the air traffic controllers of a high-stakes war zone. It is an ergonomic pressure cooker where a single mistake can mean the loss of an entire carrier strike group. One of the most famous early tests of the E-2 involved its ability to distinguish tiny targets against the clutter of the ocean waves. While older radars were blinded by the reflection of the water, the Hawkeye's computers could sift through the noise to find a single low-flying cruise missile. This shocked the Navy leadership, who realized they now had a God view of the battlefield. It was the birth of the modern AEW strategy, airborne early warning, that has defined American naval power for over half a century. When the E-2C officially entered service in the 70s, it was a digital revolution. It was built to be a digital sponge, capable of soaking up data from every ship and plane in the fleet. From long-range interceptors to tiny scout drones, the Hawkeye evolved from a simple radar plane into the premier multi-domain command center. It proved that in modern war, information is more lethal than any missile. It showed that whoever sees the farthest, wins the fight. The E-2's legendary status was forged during Operation Mole Cricket 19 in 1982. While the world watched the air battles over Lebanon, the Hawkeye was secretly running the show. This is the secret sauce of the E-2's history. It coordinated the destruction of nearly 90 enemy jets without the US-made planes losing a single dogfight. The Hawkeye pilots didn't just watch the battle, they directed it like a symphony, telling every fighter exactly where to turn and when to fire. The mission was a masterpiece of electronic dominance. The E-2 stayed out of range of enemy missiles while its radar painted the entire sky. One of the operators on that mission recalled that they could see the enemy pilots taking off from their runways before the enemy even knew the battle had started. It was a high-stakes gamble with no room for error. The Hawkeye was the high-value target that the enemy was desperate to kill, but they couldn't even get close. When the fighters reached the engagement zone, the Hawkeye operators provided look-down capability that neutralized the enemy's low-level tactics. In less than 2 hours, the entire enemy air defense network was dismantled with surgical precision. Not a single Hawkeye was ever in danger, yet it was the primary reason for the victory. The world woke up to a new reality. The slow E-2 was now a strategic weapon capable of winning a war without ever crossing into the line of fire. This mission also proved the incredible endurance of the Hawkeye's Allison T-56 engines. Critics had argued that turboprops were a relic of the past, but the Hawkeye's engines proved to be masterpieces of reliability, capable of staying on station for hours while providing massive amounts of electrical power to the radar. This staying power allowed the Navy to maintain a constant radar umbrella over the fleet, a feat that jet-powered planes simply couldn't match. The success of the E-2 in the 80s led to an explosion of respect for the silent service of the Navy. Countries like Japan, France, and Israel realized they didn't just need fast jets, they needed a brain in the sky. This universal scout reputation is why the E-2 is still the primary airborne warning platform for the world's most elite navies. It is a machine that rewards strategic thinking and punishes those who rely on raw power alone. The most dangerous job on the carrier belongs to the crews of the new E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. This mission is pure data management and nerves. The plane's job is to sit at the edge of the fleet's reach, acting as a relay station for the newest F-35 stealth fighters. This forces the enemy to reveal their stealth signature to the Hawkeye's massive UHF radar. Once the target is spotted, the Hawkeye passes the data to the fighters, allowing them to kill the enemy without ever turning on their own radars. During modern naval exercises, the Advanced Hawkeye has flown thousands of hours, proving its ability to integrate with the Navy's integrated fire control system. Pilots and operators share stories of hunting stealth targets that were supposed to be invisible. Because the E-2D uses a unique radar frequency, it could perform detections that caused even the most advanced stealth drones to appear as bright spots on the screen. It is a digital ballet in the middle of a cyberstorm. The E-2 also holds a unique record for safety and longevity on the carrier deck. Since its introduction, the Hawkeye has been the first plane to launch and the last to land on every mission. Most of its successes are invisible to the public, but the sailors on the ground know the truth. If the Hummer, as they call it, isn't in the air, the mission doesn't happen. The jet's lack of weapons is its greatest strength, as it allows for a massive focus on sensor fusion and communication. In recent years, the E-2 has been at the forefront of monitoring global hotspots, from the South China Sea to the Mediterranean. Navy operators describe the E-2D as a generational leap in technology. They praise its glass cockpit, its new aerial refueling capability, and its ability to act as a Wi-Fi router for war. For the Navy, the Hawkeye is a technological bridge that allows older ships to fight alongside the newest jets, proving once again that the Hawkeye is the ultimate defender of the fleet. The psychological impact of the E-2 is its omniscience. Because it sees everything within 300 miles, the enemy can never be sure if they are truly hidden. It is a machine that owns the information space. Whether it's providing search and rescue coordination or directing a deep strike mission, the Hawkeye provides a level of tactical awareness that makes it indispensable. It is the workhorse that every admiral wants in their pocket, a machine that turns surveillance into absolute control. The final analysis of the E-2 is a story of ultimate industrial foresight. It proved that a simple idea, a flying radar dome, was the most resilient concept in naval history. The Hawkeye established the blueprint for what a modern battle management plane should be, a modular, upgradable platform that can do everything from disaster relief to nuclear war coordination. It has outlived its rivals and remains the benchmark by which every other AEW aircraft, from the Chinese KJ-600 to the Russian A-50, is measured. The legacy of the Hawkeye can be seen in its newest aerial refueling upgrades. This allows the plane to stay in the air for over 10 hours, acting as a permanent eye in the sky. The Navy realized that the Hawkeye is so efficient that it is better to keep building new versions than to try and replace it with a clean sheet design. It is a machine that refused to become a relic, evolving into a cyber warfare hub that will remain in service well into the 2040s. Looking toward the future, the E-2 is being tested as a controller for robotic wingmen. The Navy has already flown missions where Hawkeye operators controlled swarms of unmanned drones from the back of the plane. This manned-unmanned teaming is using the Hawkeye to teach AI how to manage a battlefield. The E-2 is no longer just a radar plane, it's the brain for the next generation of autonomous warfare. It is a machine that continues to lead the way, proving that its airframe is still the most perfect host for sensors ever conceived. The cultural legacy of the E-2 is one of quiet excellence. It is the plane of the Hummer community, the plane that makes every other mission possible, and the unsung hero of every carrier deck. For the men and women who fly it, the Hawkeye is a sacred trust, a machine that protects their brothers and sisters in the fighter community. It is a symbol of a nation's determination to never be surprised, a machine that turned the Rotodome into a permanent law of the naval battlefield. Standing next to an E-2 today, you feel its massive, rugged, and incredibly purposeful presence. It looks like a tool built for one thing, the high-speed pursuit of total awareness. It doesn't look like a relic of the 60s, it looks like a craft that belongs in a future where data and intelligence are the only things that matter. From the early radar domes of the past to the advanced Hawkeye of today, the E-2 has remained the ultimate tool of global security. It is the machine that ensures the ocean remains safe, turning long-range logic into a permanent guarantee of global stability. The E-2 Hawkeye is more than a surveillance plane, it is a 50,000-pound guarantee of naval dominance. It proved that in the modern era, the most important weapon is the ability to see, understand, and act before your opponent even knows you're there. It is a masterpiece of fire control, data linking, and absolute mechanical grit that redefined the nature of naval war itself. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the history of the Hummer. Is the E-2 the most underrated plane in the Navy, or will the rise of satellites finally end the era of the airborne radar? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue to explore the fire and steel of history. Peace out.